Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope everyone is well and in the best of Islamic spirits. I know Ramadan's approaching quite quickly, and I pray to Allah that we all reach Ramadan safely and that it is a means to our purification. Ameen. It's been a long journey, but it started, I think, from when I was very young. The most impressionable presence in my life was my mother. My mother was a revert. She became Muslim when she was quite young. And really my first memories of Islam and knowledge are to do with my mum. My first religious memory is of waking up in the Fajr and seeing my mum pray and looking over her shoulder and seeing her read from Surah Al-Baqarah, specifically the story of Adam, and watching her seek knowledge with sisters. As for my own personal experience in relation to seeking knowledge, I think that came around when I was 15. I remember I was at a bus stop and waiting for transport to arrive so that I could go to school, and it hit me that I didn't know a lot about my religion, that spiritually I was lacking, and so a desire awoken within me to search and to seek out knowledge. So I moved to Morocco, and there in Morocco, I guess I was very blessed in that the community of Muslims that I came into contact with and that I was surrounded with and that supported me and guided me was a very spiritual one. I then was also blessed, I think, when I came back to Australia by meeting a local scholar who introduced me in a more formal and systematic sense to many of the Islamic sciences. So he really introduced me and opened my eyes to the depth of the Islamic tradition. And then I think lastly, coming back to Morocco once again was also an even greater blessing, because I came into contact with a very independent traditional movement that sought to delve very deeply into the most sophisticated works and treatises of the Islamic tradition and sciences. So all of these things, I think, in terms of my own personal subjective experience in relation to seeking knowledge, have had a significant impact, and I thank Allah for all of those blessings that I have met along the way. I started seeking knowledge in an organized manner from when I was 15. So I came to Morocco, over a period of time memorized the Quran, learnt Arabic, was also introduced and exposed to traditional Islamic culture through my Quran teachers. So they would read to us from the Ihya, teachers from the traditional Madahib. I then came back to Australia under the tutelage of local scholars. I studied in Arabic, beginners to intermediate texts in all the main disciplines, in Islamic jurisprudence, Islamic law, Hadith studies, Quran studies, texts in Tasawwuf. I then decided to come back to Morocco and work harder and focus more on my Arabic. So I revised the Quran 3 times during that period, and at the same time enrolled in a local institute in which I was exposed to Arabic literature and linguistics as well as grammar and morphology. I then came back to Australia, continued with scholars that I had previously studied under, started texts that were slightly harder than the ones that I had previously studied under them. Then, with their blessings, I came back to Morocco, alhamdulillah, and consulted with local scholars here about where I should study, I decided after that consultation to enroll in the local humanities university that offers a degree in Islamic studies. Also, I decided to attend a program in the mountain ranges behind the city I'm currently in which intermediate to advanced texts are taught there, quite an intense and challenging program. At the same time, I decided to start attending the circles of a local muhaddith and jurist here in the city. So I guess my weekly routine begins with my program in the mountains. So Saturday, Sunday and Monday I'm there. We learn 4 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. In between, groups of students will gather together and revise. Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday I'm down here in the city, so I attend university. We have roughly 7 subjects a term and a block of 4 to 6 hours each day. And then Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays I attend the circles of the muhaddith that I previously talked about. We learn texts in fiqh and hadith. Beyond the financial support, the most important thing for me is just knowing that being connected with Sanad means being connected with something a lot bigger than myself, in the sense that hopefully, I'll be the first of many others that will receive support, and that one day, hopefully, Sanad scholarship recipients or Sanad scholars can collaborate together to provide and address the needs of Muslims in Australia. As obviously, I realise that is not something that I can accomplish solely by myself. So just that idea that I'm part of a wider vision, and that there's activity towards fulfilling that vision practically is very encouraging. Also, it's just great knowing that the community is starting to get behind this project and these type of projects, because they're really the type of initiatives that we're going to need in Australia if we're going to be able to build and to provide the type of institutions that will enable us to be a strong and thriving community. I guess my personal goal for when I come back to Australia, and really the mandate provided to me by the Sanad organisation, is to be able to provide education in the Islamic sciences to the Muslim community, education that's systematic and rigorous. I'm also hopeful, and I guess it's probably my greatest ambition and goal, is to be able to work with other Sanad scholars and with local scholars in general. I think that's the most important thing. I think together as a scholarly community, working together and collaborating, we can provide programs that really address the needs of the variegated student body. I'm also really looking forward just to interacting with other people and growing with students through their questions, through their own thoughts. Many of my shuyukh have related to me that their knowledge didn't blossom until they came into contact with students and were challenged by students. So I'm really looking forward to growing when I come back with Muslims in Australia, in Melbourne. I'm also really interested in engaging with the Muslim educated class, collaborating with them, particularly with philosophy students, politics students, history students, sociology students and graduates, to try and work together to form infrastructure for the Muslim community, because I believe that's one of the areas probably that we're most lacking in and that really need to work on is producing the infrastructure that we need to continue to grow in Australia, but most importantly to grow in a way that we can be a constructive and creative minority in Australia. I hope all of you remember me in your du'as and ask Allah to facilitate my journey as a student of knowledge. I'm just very grateful to Allah, and I pray, for everyone that's contributing and participating and helping with Senate.